Well, good evening, everyone. What Tom is laughing at is I threw my glasses off at the last second. So
seemed like a lot of anger there.
There was a lot of repressed glasses anger there.
Okay, there is. Yeah. I'm sorry. But hey, welcome to Gun Cranks. It's Wednesday. It's time for our normal meeting, and we would like to welcome you. I'm Guns Magazine editor Brent Wheat, along with American Handgunner editor Tom McHale, and our former and now retired boss, Roy Huntington, from his estate in the depths of the Midwest.
He no longer
nobody
has power.
That's right.
Well, you know, go ahead. Well, guys, we've been talking, and I think everybody is talking. This next week's going to be pretty interesting. We try generally not to talk too much about current events because there's really not a lot of fun stuff going on in the world. We try to focus on firearms and all the cool stuff. But I think right now is a time in our lives and our country where I'm not really sure what the next 7 to 10 days is going to bring. So we thought let's talk about some of that stuff, give you some of the insight that, we've got on this whole concept, and then let's all hope for the best. So that's kind of where we're coming from. The chair recognizes Tom McHale from the great state
that's like
of
a
South
Senate
Carolina.
Hearing.
Exactly.
I like this. I like this model.
Sir, I do declare.
I have to disagree with you already,
okay,
Chairman. Is that I know exactly what the next 7 to 10 days is going to bring.
Okay.
Here, I will bet $1 trillion on this outcome of all this. Okay, you ready?
Ready.
People are going to lose their ever-loving minds. Now, the only thing we don't know is which people.
Yeah, that's true.
So
that's absolutely true.
We can probably agree on that.
We can agree to disagree to agree. Is that what we're saying?
I'm in full agreement of your disagreement.
Well, I think but Brent summed it up a minute ago when he said, okay, now all seriousness aside, who do you think is going to win? And Tom or I just stared at the screen blankly. I don't know.
I know who I hope wins, and I think we're all on the same page. And
who you hope wins, but
let's go ahead and throw that stump out there. If you're a gun owner, you have to vote for Trump. You just have to, because it will get ugly.
Platform voting,
Yeah.
Okay, come on. They are not going to want to take your guns.
But yeah, let's. Don't you agree? We should have reasonable.
Can we pop up that Leonardo DiCaprio meme? Was it?
Yeah.
I was thinking of Dr. Evil.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
No, it's really true.
Yeah, it's not pretty. But anyway, as prudent Americans, which our entire audience is prudent Americans, we're all doing a few things just to kind of be prepared, which, any good Boy Scout and any good guns and American handgunner reader should be. So we're going to talk about some of that stuff. So guys, aside from trying to buy non-existent ammo, what are some of the things that
I already bought all the ammo? That's why you guys are having trouble. So
you're the guy. Well, thank you. Yeah. Address the hate mail to editor@americanhandgunner.com. No, what are some of the things you guys are doing?
I have to remind people of something, and that is that I did some research on this, and my dad was actually a clinical psychologist, and we used to have a lot of psychological conversations that he always won because he knew about it and I didn't. But the whole hoarding thing was really confusing to me, and I couldn't figure it out. And I think it's like the people who say, I have 50,000 rounds of 308, but I want another 10,000 and all that. And I got it. If you think that the world's going to end and you need to have it for bartering or something, even though that's still an awful lot of ammunition and you can't really carry it anywhere. And I think, honestly, if you lived to 90 years old, if you had a couple thousand rounds of 22 and 1,000 rounds of your favorite centerfire rifle cartridge, that's probably a lifetime supply. Or supply, if you really, if it came to that. So I wanted to know, why are people hoarding this kind of stuff like ammunition? And the best I could find out was that when people don't have any sense of control over something, the presidential race, the idiots in Congress, all that kind of stuff, they tend to do things that make them feel as if they're a little more in control. And one of the things that they would do then would be to hoard supplies specifically. Yeah. And so that if you look and you've got your spare bedrooms full of toilet paper and your garage shelves are sagging because you have 100,000 rounds of various caliber ammunition, at some level, it can make some people go, okay, I'm all right. I'm okay. And so it doesn't have to have a pragmatic reason. It's simply an emotional thing. And now that kind of makes sense to me, because I was watching some people buying ammunition not too long ago, and I could tell it was husbands and wives and younger couples, and I could tell this was a reach for some of them. Like, she's saying, are you sure you really need to spend this $200? Because they still have to go grocery shopping this week, and he's really worried, and he was saying, well, yeah, I'm just really concerned about what's going to happen. I want us to be prepared, but they didn't know what else to do. And so I think if we offer anyone advice right now, is that I think you should better put those monies and energy into things that have a more immediate effect on you, which we'll talk about later, about home security and stuff like that.
Exactly.
What's interesting is if you think the world's going to end, I don't. No matter what happens over the next week or so, we're all going to wake up and go on about our lives.
The sun will come
pretty
up.
much the same as we did the day before. But if you really think the world's going to end, you can't take all that stuff with you on the road. Now, no, I'm dead serious, right?
Yeah. You're not
okay. You got 100,000 rounds of ammo. What does that weigh? And does it fit in your vehicle?
Yeah.
Right. Or are you going to stay in your suburban home for the next 30 years in the middle of the city with no food supply?
Yep.
Like, you got to wonder.
But having said all that, and it makes perfectly good sense, but I do think there are a few prudent things that maybe you should think about before things go sideways. Because I'm kind of middle ground on this. I think there's a good possibility that things might get a little squirrely for a short period of time. So next week, for example, I'm going to make sure we are stocked with toilet paper, not 700 rolls, but enough for the immediate future. Perishable food. If grocery shopping day is Saturday, I might go Friday. I certainly wouldn't try to go maybe Wednesday or Thursday, because you may not want to go to the grocery. If you've been putting off buying ammo, maybe one more box wouldn't hurt. If you've got 50,000 rounds, you probably don't need it. But I guarantee you, if you go shopping on Monday to buy one more box of shotgun shells, there isn't going to be any. Medication, if you're like me and you wait till the last day, you take that last blood pressure medication, and then you call in the script, might want to maybe get those filled a couple days in advance. Again, that's not being panic prone or anything. It's just, I figure probably don't want to be moving out and about maybe through next week, just till we kind of figure out how things are going to go.
What brings a lot of peace is being rationally prepared in general.
That's what this is about.
I live in the hurricane belt, or one of the hurricane belts, and every year we get one or more storms. None yet this year, really.
Yeah, you guys have been lucky.
So we keep 5 or 6 cases of bottled water, and we keep a couple weeks worth of toilet paper, and we keep some dry and canned food and a bag of rice, because things get crazy when a hurricane's coming. The stores sell out of everything because everyone freaks out, and it is wonderful to sit at home and do our thing and say, we don't need to go to the store. There's a hurricane coming in a couple days, and we do not need to rush out and panic.
Yeah.
Well, it's not hoarding. It's just, we got enough to last a couple weeks, and if power goes out for a few days, so what?
We get that here in the Midwest. We call that the blizzard pancakes or the blizzard French toast, because milk is gone, eggs are gone, and bread is gone. That's like the only 3 things that people run out and get right before
propane,
a snowstorm.
Gas lines at the, just all that stuff.
Yep.
It's crazy.
I think if there's a good lesson here for everybody, and that is that to do just what Tom is saying, which is, what do you call it? Sane.
I don't know, sane or rash. Did I say sane?
Rational
preparedness.
Rational preparedness is
copyright.
That don't allow yourself to get caught like this again.
That sounds like a book. We got to write a book called Rational Preparedness. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Because that's really what it is, because it's the irrational response to things that causes we gun owners to kind of be a bit of a laughing stock sometimes, maybe.
Exactly.
Those silly gun owners, why is he buying 10,000 rounds of 16 gauge shotgun? Well, it does look silly to people, and so, but I think to do the kind of response that Tom's talking about, it's like, well, no, I keep a month of food on hand. I have some water. We have a backup generator. Well, that's not looked upon as silly, although I'm sure there are some urban sophisticates who think that may be silly, but to the rest of the entire United States, that's nothing but that's good thinking.
Exactly.
That's preparing for things that actually do happen on a regular basis. We do lose our power for a day or two or three every year, and no, that's the rational part of it, I guess.
I read a sign, or a meme, I guess you'd be, where they take a picture and then they write words about underneath it, and it's this science looking guy, and he's saying I was valedictorian in high school. I went to college and majored in biology and chemistry and physiology. Then I went and I got my doctorate in world affairs and diseases and things like that. And then he said, I wrote my paper on a topic, and then some guy without a high school education goes online and says, bullshit. And I think that we have to be careful that we aren't victims of that. In other words, I think we have to believe that people really know what they're doing, present company accepted, because we don't really know what we're doing. But when somebody who really probably knows what they're talking about says, you really don't need to buy a truckload of toilet paper, it's okay to listen.
Exactly. Well, let's go ahead now and hit our hot and juicy part of this topic, which is dealing with those nonviolent social justice warriors who just want to share love and peace and kindness and all that stuff that we've seen on the news, where they love their town so much they burn it to the freaking ground. And honestly, I mean, that's what everybody's worried about. They're afraid that these people, if you can use that term, will end up threatening their homes, their families, their businesses. So that's why the gun purchases, we've had 3 months now of record gun purchases and background checks. And folks have finally realized you are kind of responsible for your own safety most of the time. As we always told people when I was a cop, if you're going to have trouble, call me. I'll bring my friends. I'll bring my friends' friends. We'll bring all kinds of guns and stuff, but you got to hold the fort for a little while till we can get there. So that's kind of what we're talking about. And again, let's not get too wrapped around the axle, because, in the grand scheme of things, 100% of the country will never be embroiled in a vast and great civil war part 2. But having said that, there will probably be some areas where it will get a little bit ugly. So that's a question we get a lot now. So the common one, and we've seen it played out. You've got your beautiful home on the outskirts of a major Midwestern metropolitan city, and some of these social justice warriors are standing out front calling you terrible names and threatening to do things to you. What do you do now?
Yeah.
I'm going to answer that because I think that if Trump wins, we should absolutely positively expect to see Portland and those kind of take to the streets, burn police cars, smash windows. There's no doubt in my mind. I'm positive that's going to happen. To what end, I have no idea. And I hope that the government entities have the huevos to step in and stop it. Right. Yeah. But I think for the rest of humanity who are normal, I think it's time for us to be sane. And sane means stay home and protect your family. It means don't go there to see what's going on. Don't go there to stop the rioting.
To raise your voice.
Yeah, don't raise your voice. No, look right down at your feet, and where you're standing is where you need to be. Yeah. And if it means keep your kids home from school, then keep your kids home from school. I mean, I just don't be afraid to make those kind of decisions. People are so afraid they're afraid to actually do things like that. Like Brent, when you were a cop, I'm sure you heard people say, "Oh, I didn't believe it was really happening to me," or they'll allow something and they won't say, "Hey, you stop." Yeah. They just let it happen. So don't let this happen to you, but don't go looking for it.
Yeah.
And now's the time to think long and hard about where you're going to draw that line. I mean,
use of force.
There are 2 recent glaring cases that stand out in my brain. There's the guy, the kid, teenager, I don't forget, he was 17 or something,
Wisconsin,
that's in serious hot water now for, firing his rifle in self-defense. And then there was the husband and wife standing out in their front yard. Also, right, wrong, or indifferent, they're all in hot water. Whether they should be or not, it's a whole different set of questions. But where are you going to draw your line?
Yep. And basically, at least until some other faction takes over our court system is still founded on the idea of reasonableness. If you take all of your emotions away from it, do a group of reasonable men and women look at your actions and go, yeah, I'd have probably done the exact same thing. It's the old thing of, if somebody's threatening to spray paint your wall and you pull a Wyatt Earp and give them the double barrel 10 gauge and cut them in half, that doesn't seem very reasonable, as much as some people might think they deserve that.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of things. And don't get wrapped around the axle on the castle doctrine too. Well, it's my home, I can defend it any way I want. Maybe,
right.
And these are all things you really need to, like Tom said, figure long and hard, do some research, talk to an attorney. Your time's kind of running out on that, but you need to at least think based on the potential threats that your neighborhood may face. What are you going to do? I think people start violently breaking into your home. That's a whole different deal. I don't think there's too much issues there. You get into that situation like in St. Louis suburb, they were protecting their home and these people were clearly trespassing. I don't know enough of the facts to make a determination either way, but their defense is going to be, we were reasonably defending our home. And personally, if somebody's going to spray paint something or tear up my lawn, oh, well, I just would rather not deal with the legal system, whether I'm right or not.
I'm with you on that. You never know. And I'm not going to put this on them because I was not there. And I will not judge their actions because I was not there. But boy, if there's an opportunity for me to stay inside of my house, that's where I'm going to be,
Well, let's talk about
new grass, and insurance takes care of your car. But
well, let's talk about that. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Let's talk about that, because I personally, I think that going outside of your house to confront people who are in the front walking by or riding or something, it's a terrible mistake. Remember what we said a minute ago, look at your feet, stay there, right?
Exactly.
So
that's a good rule. I love that rule. That's a good one.
If you're in your home with your family, now I think you need to be doing what both Tom and Brent have been saying, which is be thinking about things now. And that is, how do you harden that target that you where you live?
Mm-hmm.
Well, how do you make it look less attractive? Because remember, they're all thieving criminals and they're lazy, and so they don't want to do anything that's hard. They want to do something that's easy. So if your cars are parked out front and you've got your BMW and your Cadillac Escalade, and you don't have a fence in the front yard and stuff like that, well, now you're low-hanging fruit, and now your windows are going to get bashed out, your yard's going to get burned, or who knows what. But if you harden your target more, and for instance, put your cars in the garage, or take that side fence down, drive it around, put them behind your house. If you're living close to an urban area like Tom was talking about, where it may just erupt. And so get some clamp-on lights from Home Depot and put 1,000-watt LED flash or your floodlights pointing out front so they can't see, and stuff. I mean, I don't care. Get a roll of chicken wire and put it around your front and pound some posts in the four corners. Doesn't have to be pretty, just be smart. So the goal here, though, is that people are walking up your street, they look over there, they go, oh, he's got a fence, he's got really scary bright lights, he doesn't have any cars, we'll go to his neighbor.
Yeah,
that's the goal.
And I'm not a big
strategy, right?
Well, yeah.
The what?
Yeah. You just have to run faster than the other guy.
It's a bit like that. Yeah.
Well, I'm not a big believer in psychological intimidation, but when you're dealing with crowds, and again, these nonviolent social justice warrior protesters, looking like you're willing to do something that maybe you're a couple bubbles off plumb, you've got 17 no trespassing, and my favorite, trespassers will be shot, survivor will be shot again. Normally that's a really bad look, but if you think that might be something you're going to be dealing with, maybe, a good best defense is a good offense, and just make it look like, they're going to pay a high price to come to your house. We're not going, that guy looks crazy, let's go to the neighbors.
Well, we both arrested burglars who've said those exact words to us.
Exactly.
Which is, well, why did you break into that house? Well, because the guy next door had bars and bright lights and a barking dog.
Exactly.
I broke into
I
this
love
guy's.
that lights idea. That's about the easiest thing in the world. And if you got any windows that are up a little higher, or even a second story or a story and a half, you just pop them up there from Lowe's or Home Depot. That's brilliant.
Well, and remember, because it doesn't have to be pretty, it doesn't have to be permanent, it doesn't have to be anything other than get it done. And
Well, these
so
peaceful protesters like anonymity, and
Yeah.
that's right.
face masks and hiding in the dark, and well, light
Yeah,
it up.
Light it up, because that's the first thing. They're like cockroaches. What happens if you go in a house and you flip the light on, the cockroaches all run? Yeah. Well,
Exactly.
it's exactly the same thing. Remember, just they need to look at your house and think, they're going to fight.
Yeah.
Right. And if it's I don't know if I'd put a Trump for president sticker in my front yard, but,
agree.
but yeah, I mean, but you got to lay low. But I don't think it's inappropriate at all to go buy a big roll of fencing material and some 2x4s and pound them in the four corners of your front yard and run that fencing out there and park your cars in the garage and put some bright lights up, and then and be sensible.
Yeah.
So
Well-
what you're saying is sharpen phone poles and stick them in the ground pointed outward. Is that
Just like
that
in
what you just said?
Braveheart. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like in
Okay,
Braveheart.
got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Well, a good punji pit in the suburbs is something you don't see a lot, but
Well, you could do that trench and fill it full of diesel, so you could throw a match. Whoomp,
look
that'd
at them
make
run.
that'd make the evening news. I'll bet. It's, barbecue at the Huntington household, or But I know we're
We
laughing.
shouldn't be
and
laughing
stuff.
for that.
I know,
That's funny.
but I think that these are easy things to do, and so just don't give them the opportunity. The less opportunity you give them, then the less they have that's attract, or less they would be attracted to you. So I took a report one time from a guy in a BMW, and some guy had broken in his window and stolen his briefcase, which had his, at the time, yuppified Rolex and all that stuff. And so he was mad at me. Where were you at the donut shop and stuff like that? And of
I
course,
pay your
I'm sure that went
salary.
over well. Yeah.
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 And of course, I told him I said, well, actually, yeah, I was at the donut shop, but I tried to tell him, it's, if you hadn't parked your BMW in the dark spot on the street, and if you hadn't left your obviously expensive leather briefcase on the front seat, chances are pretty good that somebody would have just walked by,
Yeah.
And I know it's not our job to keep them honest like that, but it certainly helped. It's like, what do they always say about padlocks? So it keeps honest people honest.
Yeah.
That's kind of true. I think it maybe at some levels. And so if you give these people a reason to not go to your house, well, then they won't probably, and they'll go to the next house,
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean go out and pick the fight.
Exactly. That was the point I was going to make, that, I'm pretty clearly a Trump supporter. If I feel that there's going to be some problems Tuesday night, Saturday morning, or whatever, I'm not going to have a Trump sign in my yard. I know you want the world to know who you support, but is it worth drawing the attention to yourself and probably making yourself a victim? That's all you're doing. You're saying, I want to be a victim. I want you to come here. I want you to tear up my stuff. I want to get involved in a confrontation so I can get charged and vilified in the national media. That just doesn't seem like a great idea to me, but
Well, it's
what you want.
You have the right. There's a lot of things like that in life, like certain open carry situations are like that. Yes, you have the right. Is it going to end well? Maybe not,
Yeah.
Well, a lot of this, I think, has to do with personal awareness, which I think is usually the main reason why people get into trouble, unless it's just really out of the blue, is that they were unaware of what's going on around them. And
Absolutely.
so if you're that person that Tom was talking about, and you live in a suburban neighborhood, but you're near, you're outside of Portland, right? Or something like that. Well, then you have to pay attention and be aware of what's happening. You need to be following the trends. And so when you see the trends are the roving band of nincompoops is moving toward your neighborhood, well, maybe that's a time like the tornado or the hurricane is, you pack your kids in the SUV and you get out of Dodge. You leave the clamp on lights on and the fence around your house, hoping that they walk by. But
yeah.
So we've got some good advice for our Portland suburban viewers, right? Move right now.
Now. But you made a good point that I worry about a family member who lives in an area where some of that goes on. And I think they look at me and think, oh yes, we know you're concerned, but it'll be okay, you crazy old man. I think it's so important that the point I try to get across to him is, during these situations and these tough times, if you see a group of people standing in the middle of the street, I can almost guarantee you 100% it's not Jews for Jesus or Jerry's Kids. It is nonviolent social protesters looking to stop cars and drag you out of the car. So
Yeah.
what's the answer there? And back up, go the other way. But it seems like monthly in the last couple of months, you see a news video of somebody caught in this group and
Mhm.
they're surrounded by these knuckleheads, and it just doesn't end well. And that goes back to what Roy
Never
said
ends well.
about the awareness. I wonder what those 100 people are doing blocking the street up ahead. Let me drive up there and see.
Yeah.
Wrong answer. Totally wrong answer.
Well, I think it's almost like situationally dependent. In other words, I live in very rural Missouri. We're not the least bit worried here about roving bands of idiots, because we all know what would probably happen fast here. But I think if you really do live in an area of the country that could be prone to some serious rioting or serious social unrest, I think you also need to be making some other plans. Things like have a place that you can evacuate to. If you have older children who will be out of the house, have a place where they know that they can meet you if they can't get home.
Yeah.
And let's make sure that everyone in their car has, warm clothing and some water and a little bit of food in case you do get isolated from each other for a while. And so those are the kind of really practical things. And boy, if you think buying 5,000 rounds of ammo makes you feel better, knowing that your family is safe, and with practical things like food and water and clothes and a safe place that you're going to meet and things like that, that really is empowering. Another thing you should think about, and now I know this is going to cause a run on this, probably, I hope so.
You're going to start a national run on what?
I'm going to start a national run right now, and that is that make sure you've got as many of the sets of the little personal radios that you can need for your family.
Okay.
Yeah, if you
gotta
have
run to the store.
Okay, yeah, do that right now. But the family home radio frequency, yeah, like exactly that thing there. So just because they're good for half a mile to a mile or so, but should you remember cell service you may lose. Maybe you don't even have a landline phone, and so you need to communicate with each other, and then that's a very easy way to do that. They've got 8,000 frequencies, so you just find your own. And if you're really serious about it, spend the $500 to $1,000 and get a set of I guess you'd call them the UHF radios. I have a pair, and boy, they're terrific. They're almost like police walkie-talkies. I mean, I'll go 3 or 4 miles up the highway, to talk to Susie when she's in the other car, and they're much more reliable than the little family radios. But that's another really good thing, because that way you're downstairs, your wife and kids are upstairs, you have direct communication, you're not texting and stuff like that. But that's a little safe and sane. So.
Yeah. I just thought of something totally unrelated to all this, but I just suddenly remembered it. And I realized when I heard this, I thought of Tom McHale, because I figured he would love this as a good area defense. It's hard to overstate those blinding lights. People don't want to walk toward a blinding light. So that's a great thing. But you know what else people don't want to do, especially if it's cold? Well, if it's cold,
I know exactly what you're going to say.
The sprinklers.
Yeah.
Turn the sprinkler on.
Yeah. Just let the rain birds shoot out front of your house.
Exactly. It doesn't look provocative because, I'm just trying to get my grass, clean or clean, watered.
I'm just watering my lawn, sir.
Exactly. And I realize if you're in northern Minnesota, that's not going to work right now because they've already had snow. But, in the majority of the country, you could still turn it on. And it's really going to be effective because I think here tonight, we're going to get
that's brilliant.
So
I'm totally stealing that idea. You are right. I love that.
I figured.
Did you see that there was a commercial on TV not long ago? Was it Alexa or something? And the guy's in his den looking out the front window, and the neighbor and his dog are, the neighbor's letting his dog poop on the front yard. And he just says, Alexa, turn on the sprinklers.
Yeah. Well, I actually got that used on me years and years ago. I was in high school, and we have a big 4th of July fireworks display, and they used to shoot it off next to the golf course. So everybody got onto the golf course, and the golf course didn't mind, but the greens are, pretty delicate. You don't want people trampling over them and tearing them up. And one year they'd had a bunch of damage. So the next year we're all there laying on blankets and up popped the sprinklers and people ran willy nilly, you know, cause those things are really powerful. They're not like home sprinklers and it soaked everybody down and everybody left the area. So it really does work. Just a random thought that popped into my head.
Love it.
Great advice. And if you're really serious about it, you could hard mount them up like on the eaves of your house or something.
Water cannons. There you go.
Rainbirds that go,
yeah,
really put them out. And if you live in a fire area, then you do double duty,
That's right.
But that would be pretty cool.
I suppose you could start a counter. No, we don't want to go there.
Hey, the other thing is too, if you shoot a rider on your front porch, you drag them inside. That's really not the case, okay? Because as Brent and the guys were talking about it all has to do with reasonable doubt and reasonable belief. And were you in fear for your life? And if all of those are checked off, it doesn't matter where this happened or what gun you used or anything else. So
that just shows a guilty mind. If I get to a scene and there's a blood trail from the street into the bedroom,
don't know how that happened, right?
You know, I'm not a detective, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express. So
people still believe that though, and
they do. They adamantly believe it.
Well, this I think is a classic situation of probably 0.999% of the time, a gun is not the answer to this kind of street violence in your neighborhood. But all of these other things would probably really go a long ways toward keeping you out of being in trouble. And the adding the water, hazard in is absolutely the
fantastic?
Case. So,
well, you raised a good point though. I've been blessed or cursed. I've been in 3 actual riots. Once is the police, and that was a scary thing. And it made the national news. But I will tell you, when a full bottle of beer misses your head by that far, I would have given $10,000 for a helmet at that point because I didn't have one. Mm-hmm. But anyway, having been in one of those situations, twice as a participant during my misbegotten college days.
Next week episode, I got a topic idea.
Okay, first of all, they weren't really riots. It was a bunch of students blowing off. It was one of those deals. There's like 7 people burning a couch and everybody else standing around going, "Hey, yeah, party on." Well, anyway, no, the one where I was the cop, it was a real deal, bad news riot. But anyway, having been on both sides of that equation, what Roy said is absolutely true. No, Tom, I'm being serious.
I can't focus for the rest of the show now. I'm
whatever. No, having a gun in those situations, it was almost a hindrance because you're facing all these people. And if I shoot one of them, I could shoot to slide, lock, reload, shoot all of them. That's not going to solve the problem. It's not going to solve the problem. And I'm going to be in so much trouble that I'll be lucky not to get the death penalty. So, that's just such a prudent point that when you're looking at these nonviolent social justice, demonstrators, a gun is the absolute last resort in a mass crowd situation because it's not going to work. It's kind of like a dog bite. People are afraid of dogs not because of getting bitten so much as being afraid to be bitten. So it's kind of like the gun. You shoot one guy and it's like, well, okay, he shot him now. Let's tear this guy apart because there's a lot of them and only one of him. So just remember, you don't even want to be there.
No, they've got their crowd mentality, which means they have no brain left.
Exactly, so reptile brain.
It's reptile brain, and so they're all just basically following whatever's going on around them. There's a famous story about old Colonel Rex Applegate of World War II fame era. He was actually a riot expert. Mm-hmm. Like he developed riot response for. I think it was the Hong Kong Police Department. Yeah. They used to have a lot of riots in those days, and
he wasn't very gentle about it either.
Oh no, I think he was in the Philippines, but I might be wrong about this. And he had just arrived to be a consultant, and they were having a pretty serious problem, pretty serious riot. And so what he did was he assembled a bunch of smoke grenades. And he said, he gave them to the police officers and said, have your men run out into the crowds and pop these smoke grenades and start yelling, poison gas, poison gas.
Fantastic.
Just a little white lie.
Yeah.
And I guess it just worked because I heard the story from Rex. And so it just worked spectacularly. He went,
that's brilliant.
Just like that. poof, because I'll remember all it takes is poison gas. One person starts to run, then everyone's going to run.
And it happens.
Yeah.
That's what the crowd's doing, right?
Well, you guys know, because Tom made fun of me. I've got 3 military grade, big time smoke grenades. So I don't think I'm going to have a problem out front, but I guarantee you I'm going to turn the sprinklers on. I'm going to turn the lights on, and then the poison. And because I got a green one too. That would be
that looks poison.
Gas!
Soylent Green.
Exactly.
You could say that about
sprinkler system with OC spray. So there.
Oh yeah.
There you go. if you have sprinklers out there, you could have a PA that says poison water. Yeah. Get away. I don't know. We're being silly now, but
I know it's fantastic.
What are some other things that we could do? Oh, the fire extinguisher thing too. Keep them by your front door, because honestly, if you get some idiots coming up pounding on your door or something, first stay inside. But if things get a little serious, you just open the door and let them have it with a 5-pound dry chemical. And trust me, it's like, run away.
I'm going to tell an absolute.
You got to yell poison
story.
gas while you do that.
Yeah, poison gas.
Back 30 some years ago, when I worked as a jailer, we were having shift change, and it was kind of an animal house, and we were always getting in trouble. So one of the guys grabbed one of these 10-pound CO2 fire extinguishers. And when the oncoming shift commander, who he was a nice guy, but he was kind of a dorky kind of guy. As soon as the door opened, he let him have it. And when it was empty, he literally had dry ice on his gun belt, and he was smoking. And all he said was, "Very funny."
Yep. Very funny.
Oh, that was fantastic.
Yeah.
We got a lot of trouble for that one.
Dry chemical fire extinguishers. So those are really, really, really cool things. They really are.
Those are ugly.
And nobody wants to. People are embarrassed easily, even rioters. So they don't want to be the guy who's first.
Yeah.
Now there's some idiots out there, and you're just gonna have to deal with them the best you can. But generally, people they just want to like have their little riot and then go home now. If you make it uncomfortable for them and you focus the attention on them, I think. I mean, having said that, I've heard some things about armed counter militia and all that kind of stuff. I think we've all seen some of the video of them in demonstrating peacefully and all that. And I don't know what it would take to get them to actually want to start to exchange shots. And I hope that it doesn't ever get to that. But I don't think that's going to be rampant, though. And I don't think you guys do either. Yeah. I mean, there may be a couple of isolated circumstances.
Well, there's a group, and I won't mention their name. And I thought this was an urban legend or something overstated by the media. And I did a little research myself, and it's absolutely true. There's a group that I believe they're based out of Atlanta, and they're all African-American gentlemen, and they have a squad, and they went to Louisville, and I saw several pictures of it. And these guys look like a company, and it looks like most of them have ARs. Some of them have shotguns and things like that, but they were taunting the police. Well, my thought is, one of these days, if that group confronts, say, counter protesters that are also armed, we're going to have a shooting war, and there's going to be bodies on both sides.
It could go south fast.
You don't want to be part of that, because once the gunfire starts, it just explodes, because everybody's shooting. That's the problem we have with cops. One guy shoots, 7 guys shoot because they hear gunfire. So the simple answer, what is it, Roy?
Yeah, look down at your feet.
Stay where your feet are.
Yeah,
exactly. So
we got some big lessons from today. Stay where your feet are. Turn on the lights and the sprinkler.
Yep, and the poison
gas.
Probably
and fire
that's my
extinguishers.
takeaway.
Poison fire extinguisher.
Yeah,
those are probably. And remember now, these are all things that an actual human being can do easily. So do those things. Stop buying ammunition, would you, for the next month?
Yeah.
And take care of your family. Make sure your spare tire is aired up. Make sure you've got a couple little radios if you need them. You can talk to your family. Make sure your daughter's car, has extra clothing and
has fuel in it, because
fuel in it. Yeah.
People run out of gas.
And put an empty gas can in it too, because they're not going to have a gas can if they need it. So take care of those kind of things. And my wife used to accuse me of always being over prepared when we used to go to camping, and because I had a spare alternator and a spare this and a spare fuel pump, and we were always over kind of tire repair kits and everything. Except finally one day they realized that when something happened, it made it not an emergency. That was when we lost the fuel pump out in the middle of the desert outside of Needles, that it was a half an hour delay, and I had a new fuel pump in, and we got back on the road, which would have turned into a who knows, all day as you're waiting for somebody to come and help you. And so this kind of preparedness just turns emergencies into just sort of a more routine incident that day.
Yep.
And that's the goal.
And in closing, gentlemen, wouldn't you agree that even if you take every one of these preparations, if you take none of them, just keep in mind the idea that on Wednesday morning or Sunday morning, I can almost guarantee you the sun will freaking come up.
It will.
The world will keep spinning.
Probably.
It will.
So, don't lose sight of that fact, because I'm guilty of it as anybody. I've had to turn off a lot of the news, even the news of channels that I listen to, because everybody, as Tom said, lost their freaking minds, or was
ever-loving minds?
Ever-loving minds. A lot of people are losing their ever-loving minds. You don't be one of them, because you're smart, because you follow FMG publications.
Right.
All right. Remember, buy some clamp lights. Now watch, you mark my word. If there's a run on clamp lights,
I'm going.
And sprinklers.
I like it.
And sprinkler heads. Yeah. You blame us. I hope we get a cut. So
yeah. Tactical sprinklers.
Yeah.
There we go.
God. Don't encourage it.
FMG tactical sprinklers
like
and tactical clamp lights.
Tax sprink.
The ultimate sprinkler.
In camo too.
I was going to say it's in scorched earth and camo.
Oh, you gotta have camo. You don't want to be able to see it coming out of the ground. So
yeah, but can you sell anything tactical that's not black?
Oh,
it'd be tactical black, right?
Maybe digital camo might be okay.
Yeah. Coyote's kind of gone by the wayside.
I don't know.
It's like Paris fashion. So anyway, before I sig us out of here, guys, anything else that you wanted to share on this rather unusual topic during an unusual time?
Just be calm. Don't be depressed. Take some action that you can actually take and assure that your family will be safe. What did Brent say? This too shall pass.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. Well, guys, this has been as lively as I thought it was going to be. I've had some fun, and I've had some wonderful reminiscence of times that weren't that fun when I was standing there, but some of it was pretty fun. So anyway, we would love to hear from you. You can reach me at editor@gunsmagazine.com and Tom at editor@americanhandgunner.com. And we'll be happy to send stuff along to Roy if you want to comment on his poison gas. So anyway, check out our magazine websites. That's americanhandgunner.com and gunsmagazine.com, and our YouTube channel and our social Facebook page and Twitter page and Twitter and all that kind of stuff. I guess we're on all of it. Something like that.
They haven't banned us yet. They're trying, but
that could be another issue. So subscribing to magazines might be an important thing. That might be a good preparation. Good call there, Tom. Because all seriousness, listening to folks in this space, shadow banning is occurring with greater and greater things. So need to think about that. Anyway, okay, we're done. It's been great. Make sure you subscribe to us. Make sure you share this with, as I say on the Guns Magazine podcast, even with your crazy liberal friends. So we love you all, though. Come on in, watch Gun Cranks every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. On behalf of Roy Huntington and Tom McHale, I'm Brent Wheat. Now, be safe this week. It'll be okay.